Welcome to The Authentic Way. I'm Jess, and this space is dedicated to helping you step into your most authentic self, deeply knowing who you are, trusting yourself fully, and expressing your truth with confidence while living in alignment with it every day. I created this for anyone moving through a big life transition and feeling a little lost. Maybe you're outgrowing old versions of yourself or realizing what once fit doesn't anymore. I know that space well. Everything I share here is rooted in lived experience, the lessons I've walked through, the shifts I've had to make, and the process of finding my way back to myself. My hope is that what I've learned helps guide you back to your own clarity, confidence, and self-trust. Now let's begin the episode. Have you ever noticed the moment that you really want something, it starts to just pull away from you? Like the text doesn't come through, the opportunity stalls, or the person you were excited about suddenly feels distant. And the tighter the grip that you have, the more you think about it, the more you analyze it and try to control it, the worse it seems to get. It's frustrating because you're not doing anything wrong. You care, you're invested, and you want it to work. But what if it's not bad luck necessarily? And what if it's just biology? What if the moment that your desire turns into, I need this to feel okay, your nervous system actually shifts into survival mode? And that subtle shift changes your behavior, your energy, your tone, and your decisions. What if other people can feel that like urgency that you're carrying, even when you're trying to play it cool? In this episode, we're going to be breaking down why desperation can actually repel the thing that you're trying to hold on to from both a biological and energetic perspective, and what happens when you shift from gripping to grounded. Hello, hello. Today, we're going to be talking about trust and surrender. This topic took me a really long time to learn. And I actually think I learned it by accident more than anything. I feel like trust and surrender is such a trust muscle that needs to be used constantly. And when you're out of practice, it can really fall away and you can like lessen your grip on what it actually means to trust and surrender and feel a little bit lost for a while. So I really wanted to talk about what trust and surrender actually are and why it's important to have this deep understanding of both, because they really coincide with each other and they can really help with breakthroughs actually, or manifestation and getting you to the other side. So when we're in this place of wanting and gripping, grasping, and trying to control an outcome, we on an energetic level become very desperate. And instead of focusing our energy on actually receiving, we are in the state of desperation and lack. And when we're in that, we are only going to attract more desperation and lack. You are actually pushing things away when you have more need or desire or clenching onto the certain thing that you are wanting. And whether or not you realize it, when you actually are in that state of wanting so badly, your nervous system shifts into a dysregulated state, more of like a survival mode of fight or flight, because that's all that you can think about. And it all of a sudden becomes this threat in your body of, if I don't have that, I will not be okay. And we cannot align ourselves when we are in a dysregulated state, or we can't actually attract the things that we are trying to call in here. So let's just use an example. Have you ever been in a shop and someone is trying to sell you something so intensely and you can feel it? and you start to feel icky. You start to feel like you kind of want your distance, and you have lost all interest in potentially buying that product from them because now you're feeling like your best interest is no longer in mind. That is because they are trying to control the outcome, and they are coming at this outcome of a sale from a dysregulated place. And as humans, we tend to co regulate with each other. Just interacting with another human, your nervous system will actually start co regulating with theirs. And if they're in a survival mode or fight or flight because they need to make this sale, because they need the money, you will feel that above everything. And any sort of desire is gone. It's actually repelling you because you're now no longer trusting the person. It feels icky. Your heart rate might be going up. You might start feeling desperate, and you start actually co regulating with them in a way that is not healthy. And you start receiving the energy that they are emanating. And that happens when we are wanting to control an outcome so badly. Even if it's not with another human, even if it's just on an energetic level, we want to control the outcome. That means that we are no longer attracting this to work out. We are attracting the survival mode, that it's not going to work. Because when you are in that state, you are signaling to the universe that that's what you're calling in on an energetic level. So when you can learn to stop trying to control the how or the outcome, let's say, and rather just focus on embodying and trusting that the universe is going to have your back and that it's going to work out, you will actually start attracting the desired outcome because you are not focusing on the how at all. You are only focusing on the energy that we have when we receive the outcome that we want. You're focusing on aligning yourself with receiving that outcome. You're not worried about how or gripping. You are actually getting yourself in a place to receive. And that comes from your nervous system. So when you're able to relax, stay calm, and trust, because you know that when you align energetically, that you are now putting yourself in a place to receive, and you are ready, and you're not trying to control any outcome. When you are able to have such a strong trust muscle, this gets easier over time. You will actually attract that exact outcome that you were desiring, but you were not naming or focusing on. So the more that we can start using this trust muscle, the bigger and bigger and bigger it gets. And the easier it is to start trusting things or the universe or the people around you, or outcomes are just always going to work out in your favor. And I think that with the trust comes the surrender, because as much as we have control over our lives, we are still human and we still can't always control the things happening to us or around us, right? We can only control how we respond to it and how we want to engage with the things happening around us. I think to a certain degree, we can attract life situations, but a lot of the time, sometimes that's just our soul contract. And that's just part of why we're here on earth. And it's to learn how to navigate those situations, which can sometimes be extremely hard. But when you are in the trust phase and you've exercised that muscle so many times, you start learning that surrender has to come with it, because sometimes the outcome is not what you think. Sometimes it's better. And there's been so many times in life where I have been rejected from a person or a job or an event, anything really. And I literally had to tell myself, if it's not this, it's something better. If it's not this, it's something better. Because I know that I also can trust that what's meant for me will not miss me. And that comes with the surrender piece. Because I've let go of the outcome, I'm not holding on to it, and I've told myself that it will work out in my favor, as it always does, without deciding how. And this comes back to even practicing this trust muscle at a crosswalk. When you go to walk up to a button, it automatically turns without you even having to touch it. And saying to yourself, I'm always taken care of and I'm always going to be held. And you surrender to the situation, the how. And you just start focusing on carrying that energy of what the outcome feels like. Because when we're in any sort of situation of wanting an outcome, it is never about the actual thing or material item or situation that we are wanting. It is always about the emotion that it carries. So when you are wanting, let's just say, a brand new car, and you want a very specific type, and you know exactly which model, you know what color, we can tend to get so fixated on what it is that we're actually wanting when we are realizing that it has nothing to do with the car. What is the emotion that the car will give you? Does it make you feel free? Will it make you feel happy? Does it make you feel confident? Does it make you feel proud? That's what we're after, not the material item or thing. So when we can surrender that to the universe and say, this is actually what I'm after here. How do we make this happen? And letting them being very clear on what it is that you are wanting, but releasing the how or what it's going to look like and surrendering to whatever the universe has in mind for you, because it's usually something better than you already have planned. When I had actually, this is such a funny story. When I was buying a car, I knew that I wanted to get a used car, and I kind of had an idea of what kind of car. And I was all over Facebook Marketplace and was really kind of having a bit of a hard time. It took a while and I was really impatient. So I decided to kind of let go for a little bit and just trust that the car was out there for me. I knew exactly what color and what model that I was wanting. And I had to just trust that it was coming to me. And I just decided that the person who had the car was not ready to sell. And when it was time, I would know immediately. So I think for about 2 or 3 weeks, I kind of sat in that and I was really firm that something was going to work out for me. And I released the how or when or what it was. And I just decided energetically that I was going to align with this car coming in. And I knew that if I could just focus on, yeah, that car's mine. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know how. Just, yes, it's mine. That's when my partner at the time had actually sent me a Facebook link that popped up first for him on his Facebook Marketplace. And he had sent it to me saying, hey, you should look at this car. And I knew immediately, the moment that I saw the ad, I was like, that is my car. So I went to go test drive it, and I showed up, and the girl had said to me, "Hey, so I know that you drove all the way here and you really want this car, but I just need to let you know that my friend was actually just here test driving it right before you, and he's going to buy it." And she said, "But you're still welcome to test drive it if you want, maybe because this is the kind of car that you're looking for and it would be good." And I was like, "You know what? Sure, whatever. That's fine." And so I still kind of took it for a little bit of a test run, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have actually never driven one of these cars." It's an older car. It's a Toyota Matrix, and they don't make them anymore, and I love them because they're so light and zippy. And basically, I took this car for a rip around the neighborhood, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is my car." Like, I don't know how to explain it. This is mine, and she's white. And I named her in the test drive. I said, "This is my car, and her name is Pearl, and I am buying her." So we bring her back, and the girl is like, "I'll let you know if anything changes, but he just texted me that he's going to work out his finances." I said, "That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm so glad that I got to drive her." And I actually said her, and she started laughing. She's like, "Oh, you already identify with her." And he said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "This is like the car that I really want." And we just kind of laughed, and she said, "Okay, well, I'll let you know if anything changes." So I go home, and I started saying to my ex-partner at the time, I was like, "That's my car. I can't explain it. Pearl is mine, and I'm going to buy her." And we had these like tiny little bottles of champagne in the fridge. I don't really know why, but we did. I think someone gave them to us. Came in like this pack. And it was a Friday afternoon, and I went straight to the fridge and I popped a bottle of champagne, a mini one, and I said, "We're having a toast because I am buying Pearl. That is my car." And my partner at the time was like laughing at me and was like, "Okay, whatever." We toasted, and I just kind of went out, and I just went along my weekend being like, "That car is mine. I don't really know how. And I'm just going to wait for the text. It's fine." Like, I just completely let it go. I didn't stress about it at all. I didn't check my phone. I didn't really think about it. I just decided that in whatever way the universe was going to make this happen. And I identified with that so hard that about 3 days later, I think it was on the Monday, I get a text from her saying, "Hey, so my friend decided very last minute that the finances aren't going to work out. The car is yours if you want." And I was like, "I know it's mine. Like, this is what I've been waiting for." And I just was so calm and relaxed when she told me that, because I was like, "I know. Thank you. Like, this is so exciting. When can I pick her up?" So I think that in this story, kind of like touching on the whole thing, like, I really did just fully trust that it was going to work out. And I let go of trying to control when she was going to text me or how, or begging her or trying to send her money or just like persuading her. I let everything go, and I just let my energy be in full alignment of what it would be like to receive this car. And in the surrender, I just let go. I just decided to not even think about it, not to let it occupy my space, because I knew that if I focused on it, it probably wasn't going to end up in my hands. And I just had to decide that whatever was meant to be will be. And if it wasn't that, it was going to be something better. So I think that when we are in that state, it can be so easy to want something so bad that we aren't able to trust or surrender in the situation. And when you can start kind of coming back from any sort of emotional response of wanting something so bad and just kind of taking a moment and breathing into it and deciding, okay, you know what? I actually am not in control here. I'm never in control. I never get to decide outcomes that are not physically within my own body, is when you lean into the energy of having it and you are able to receive so much better. So once we kind of had that emotional reaction, we're just going to take a moment and turn inward and just kind of calm ourselves down and really talk to ourselves and say, do we trust that this is going to happen? And you do have to make a decision whether or not it's going to. And I think the best way or approach to do this is by starting really small. If this is not something that you're used to, start with small things and you will actually feel the trust so intensely in your body. And that's what it means to embody it, that you are in alignment with receiving this specific item or event or outcome. That's it. You've just decided, I trust this situation so hard that it's going to be handled. And I'm not going to control anything here other than just coming back to myself and being in alignment with that energy and surrendering that if it doesn't have the outcome that maybe you were desiring, not having an emotional reaction because you say, if it's not this, it's something better. And it always is. There's been so many times that I felt this like rejection piece or I didn't feel supported by the universe. And I felt so emotional, feeling like, what the hell? Like, why did this not work out for me? Why does this person not want to be with me? Or why didn't I get that client? Why did this person get that client? But then later on, realizing that it's because someone else came along who was way more fitting for your situation. And you've been waiting for this. And you realize that before would have actually just been settling for something bare minimum. And you deserve so much more. And you now deserve this outcome that you got. And knowing with the universe and divine timing that you are waiting for it to come to you. I remember when I had broken up with my ex boyfriend and I was completely devastated and trying to figure out how the hell I was going to survive that breakup. And I really just had to trust the universe that it wasn't meant to be. And the universe was going to take care of me. And I really just needed to energetically align myself with the person that I wanted to be to attract the partner for myself. Instead of trying to focus on an outcome of a partner that was better for me, looking, I just decided to be the version of me that has the new partner. So I really decided I was done dating and, some time had passed after the breakup and I started getting back out there and I realized like this wasn't really for me. So I decided to take a step back and stop dating. And I decided to write myself a love letter about everything that I love about myself and like embodying that future me, which I had talked about in the last episode, and really just spending a lot of quality time with myself and falling in love with me more and more and more, that, I'd written this letter and it was so powerful, and I just wanted to keep writing about my future. So, and then I decided I'm going to write a love letter to my future partner, who I don't know if they actually exist, but I'm just going to write everything that I love about them. And I wasn't dating at the time, and I just really took some time to think about what was important to me and what I was actually looking for in a partner. And some of it that I wrote was really unfamiliar. And I thought, well, I don't know if I didn't know I was looking for that, but something like, you just really listened to my intuition about certain things and just kind of wrote them down for fun. And I thought, well, this is kind of just like a fun exercise to do. And it really helped me gain clarity on actually like what I was looking for. And I kid you not, 2 days later, I met my partner, who is that letter to a T. He is that letter to a T so much that I actually gave it to him for his birthday. It was kind of a complete fluke that we actually ended up dating, and it was really weird, the whole beginning of that journey, and it always makes me laugh. But it had dawned on me, like maybe about a few months in, how I was like, oh my God, you are the letter. So I went way back in my journal and I said, I'm going to find this letter. And it was actually scary how identical it was to him. And which is so crazy because he is not my type from the past. And he's not the person that I thought I would have ended up with. But actually, I have the most insane connection with him and feel so deeply seen, and I see him and actually have a really beautiful understanding of each other and a really, really deep, loving relationship that I actually didn't even really know existed or could exist for me. And I just think how funny that is, because I really ruled out any sort of outcome of meeting someone, and I ruled out what they would look like or how they would be, and I actually just wrote this from a place of trust and more of a fun exercise and clarity than any sort of like need to meet this person or to call them in. I just did it to make sure that I was energetically aligning with them and knowing what I wanted. And it came from this place of no, this actually attracted the person that I wanted. And I surrendered in it because I didn't even care about any sort of timeline. I didn't care about any sort of outcome or how it was going to happen or anything about the situation. I did not care about. I just knew what kind of person I was calling in. And I do think that at the time it was so helpful that I was just deciding not to date, because that was just completely off the table. That really ruled out any sort of grasping or need to control. It really just allowed me just to be yeah, if I do meet someone, this is who I would want them to be. And not really thinking about it again until 2 days later. But it's funny because it didn't really dawn on me until we had actually gone on 3 or 4 dates together. And we were just kind of hanging out like friends. And I think on that third or fourth date, I was like, oh my gosh, whoa, this is really intense. And we hadn't even kissed yet or been romantic at all. And really just talked a lot and got to know each other a lot. And I was like, whoa, there's this crazy connection here that I can't quite explain. And it all comes back to this letter, which is so cool to me and such a great example of trust and surrender in the situation and not controlling any sort of outcome. So I hope from those two examples that gives you a good idea kind of how trust and surrender works, and maybe allowing yourself some time and space to reflect on where you might be grasping in your life and why things aren't coming in. Maybe focus more on just the embodiment piece and alignment on an energetic level with the person that you'll be when you have it, instead of controlling out of any outcome or how you are just ready to receive. Because when you can start creating that future you reality and embodying it, the world around you will catch up and you will receive it. This or something better. Your world will start to reorganize around you when you start embodying those emotions of freedom, of happiness, of abundance. It just starts to show up around you because you're now this like magnet for everything around you. And you've let go of how you're going to get there or how you're going to get the outcome, and you've just started being the outcome through micro decisions or choices around what does future you do, how do they act, how do they receive, what's the energy that they have, and then letting go and trusting and surrendering that you will be taken care of. And it will look different for every situation. And it's funny, the amount of times that I've been in something, I'm like, crap, I'm not surrendering and I need to let it go. Like, I still do it. Even though I know this process so well, I still finding myself grasping at things and remembering, okay, you're not in control here, because that's our natural instinct, is to want to control, especially with our nervous systems, like I've talked about. We want to know what's going to happen next. But when we can start coming back to that and using that trust muscle, it's very easy just to slip back into, okay, the universe is going to support me and I can relax here. I just know that I need to be taking the aligned action steps that I've been taking and letting go of any sort of outcome or desire. And you will feel it. The more that you the more that you are aligned with it and you start actually receiving that validation in the trust and surrender, it becomes a lot more fun to do. And it becomes way more enjoyable of a process and easier to kind of come back to, because we are so rewarded. And we've seen the reward before, we've felt it. And you kind of get in this process of like, okay, this is what I'm wanting. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these aligned action steps. I'm going to energetically align myself with the person who has this. And we're going to wait. And we're going to know. We're going to relax in this because we know that the universe has our back. If you haven't read that book by Gabby Bernstein, you definitely should. The Universe Has Your Back. It's absolutely amazing. And it really supports this whole podcast. So if you're liking this topic, definitely go read that. I can maybe put that in the show notes as well. So taking a moment right now just to take a second and really reflecting on how can you loosen your grip on something in your life right now, and what can you do instead, and how can you start embodying the future you who has it, and just becoming the person ready to receive instead of focusing on the not having or wanting to control. You are just aligning yourself ready. Thank you so much for listening today. I really love talking about this subject. It's so fun. I'm going to be doing a couple meditations coming up in the next few episodes, which I'm really excited about. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.